Welcome to the 300 Seconds on Agency Growth podcast. I'm Patrick Ryan, and today I'm joined by Laura and Kate, who are the co-founders of Liberty Hive. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us as well.
I think the last time I saw you guys, we had the crystal blue azure sea behind us. We had a glass of rosé almost this time last year.
Yeah, those were the days. We're not going this year.
You're not going this year.
But next year.
We will see you there next year. We haven't actually spoken much since Cannes, and I can imagine a lot has changed with you guys at Liberty Hive. Just wondered if you could say what the last year has been like for you.
Well, it's been one of, every time we sort of go 5 steps forward and the world seems to be changing in one direction, suddenly things outside of our control change again, and we are constantly adapting and shifting.
Right.
And I think, actually, whilst some of it's been quite scary, it's made us better for it. We've had to keep really tight control of costs, looking at how we can be as efficient as possible, but always leaving time for that human conversation. So I think we've been finessing that, haven't we?
Yeah, we've adapted well. And, you know, as you say, lots of things have been thrown at us, and technology is something we'll talk about in a minute, but that has really ramped up massively and helped us.
Excellent. You describe yourself as matchmaking for employees, candidates and agencies. Has that been like the mantra since the beginning, or has that been part of the evolution of the business?
It's been pretty much the mantra from the beginning, but it has evolved. So we now talk about ourselves as human-led, tech-enabled, and I guess that's always been there. But the difference is that technology has sped up so much that actually for the business and for matchmaking, we can do it a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. So, yeah.
Talking about technology, it feels that we can't have a conversation in our industry right now without talking about AI, about platforms, about technology. But it also feels now that it's just becoming a leveler for many agencies, and getting the human backing is going to be a very important thing going forward. Are you feeling like you're getting slightly different briefs from agencies now?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it? AI conversations, not just in our industry. And I think, to your point, that whole AI access to tools, all the agencies have got the same level of access now. So that's a level playing field. And what we're seeing is obviously, therefore, the talent within agencies is going to be the biggest differentiator, to your point. But what we're seeing in terms of briefs, therefore, is a shift. So in the past, where you might have a very technical brief, there is a certain level of necessity around people wanting talent that has technical understanding. AI fluency is 100% given. So all the briefs have some kind of AI tool on them or something, which obviously we didn't even see in January, I don't think. That's how quickly it's moving. But what's becoming more explicit is some of those softer skills that you talk about that are going to make the difference between agencies. So people that can use judgment, people that can understand briefs, that can talk about it, can hold a room. And I think where the best agencies will win out is where they use the AI and the technology for volume, work, all of that, but actually invest in their people and make sure that the skill sets that they're bringing on board are those skill sets that can judge, can work with the room, understand, interrogate briefs and things. And that's being more explicit. And we haven't really seen that explicitness before, where they want people that can do that. I suppose it is interesting for hiring because it's a soft skill. So if you look at a CV, you can't see whether someone is good at that. And similarly in an interview, it's always been based around sort of confidence and articulation. So again, it's quite hard. So I think what we'll probably see is a shift towards the tasks that we're going to have to give candidates to understand whether they can do that knitting together and stuff. So it's interesting. I think it'll be,
I mean, we were talking about this yesterday as we prepared for our session with you, but we were talking about actually there's a real cautionary tale, isn't there, with AI? Because I don't know if you've read, there was a case in America, but also in the UK, where a lawyer cited all these cases, and it was, AI just had a hallucination.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the one guy was nearly thrown out contempt of court. Like, going back to Kate's point, you have to bring judgment and critical thinking, something we were discussing at MPG event the other week, wasn't it?
Yep.
You know, critical thinking is going to be more important than ever before.
Yep.
And how do you judge and evaluate that is going to be key.
You say about hallucinations. The other day I was working in one of the language models and it came back with the answer and it called me Patrick Bourgoin. And I was like, who is Patrick Bourgoin? He goes, oh yes, I completely made that up. And it's even honest. It goes,
I know, I love
it's
it.
like, yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I
love
completely
it.
make that up.
It
So,
says sorry.
yes,
We
yeah.
use Claude.
Yeah, I didn't want to cite it, but yes, it was Claude. Yes, he goes, I completely made that up. You guys recently wrote a brilliant piece on nurturing the next generation of talent. Where are you seeing the biggest investment into this junior talent? Is it agencies, is it brands, is it media owners, or is it across the board, really?
Well, I think in terms of investment in junior talent, I think the first thing to really flag is that they are being disproportionately hit by AI, very sadly. And when you look at some of the stats, like Kate will remember these things much better than me, but in terms of employees under the age of 25, it's reduced now year on year by nearly 20%.
Wow.
So, I mean, that is quite shocking. And the average age is being bumped up to something like 36. Whilst you can talk about the news stories overblowing this matter, I think there is anxiety for a reason and fear.
Yep.
There's lots of reason to be nervous for the young, but there's also lots of positives as well. I think you talk about media agencies, media brands, who's investing in what.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the big things in the news has been Sky and Channel 4. I don't know if you've been following that. So the operational jobs at Channel 4, 51 out of 230 staff are being offshored, but also powered by AI. And those operational jobs are the junior jobs. So that's huge. But Sky's numbers are even bigger. They're huge. So who's going to invest in this talent? You know, you talk about new models now being touted around saying, oh, we're a really lean senior team, we're powered by AI and you don't have any juniors. But who's investing in the juniors?
Yeah.
Well, who is investing in the juniors are sort of that independent, mid-sized agencies where it's almost like a competitive moat that they're creating by investing in these people that understand relationships and get that foundation. But it is a point of concern, I think, for our industry, and it's quite contentious thinking. I mean, some people are saying maybe everybody should have a responsibility to hire and invest in X amount of junior talent.
Yeah.
It should be. I mean, just on the agency front, we know from 2024 it's gone down from 56% people hiring that younger talent down to 43% in 2025, which is a massive decrease.
Yeah.
And I suspect even in 2026 we'll see that go down again. So, and you know, all the big industry leaders are talking about it. I mean, Matt Garman, CEO of Amazon, recently had a quote saying, you know, people that say that they're replacing the younger talent with AI is the dumbest thing he's ever heard, because not only are these people the future, they're also the people that are probably most native to AI and understand it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit short-sighted, but then, you know, we are struggling in today's world and with what to do. So,
Someone I know, she runs a small to medium-sized agency. They're probably 30 or 40 people, put out a role for a grad, got 600 applicants for one role.
yeah.
There was a piece written by the BBC about the lost generation, which is this generation of, I guess, probably 18 to sort of 24, 25, where they're not, and my children sit within that, and they're not quite sure what to do. University is not a foregone conclusion anymore, so they don't want to come out with £50,000 worth of debt. But they're like, what do we do? There's less roles out there, there's less apprenticeship roles, so yeah, it's quite difficult.
It's really tough.
Well, that's something that we are going to look at, yeah. But come on to that later, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of touched on it before that we always have in our business simplifiers, people that can take complex narrative or a complex set of information and distill it down into simple narratives that that clients can understand. Given what's going on in the world, how do you feel we can create these specific soft skills when everything now is being automated?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And actually those people, as you say, we've always had them. They are literally the most valuable people in the agency, especially now. I think, you know, they're the people that knit everything together and understand it. And I actually, in my experience, don't think it's a skill you can manufacture, unfortunately. I think what we need to look at is people that show that instinct and have those types of skills, and then give them the tools to sort of really develop them. They tend to be the people that are the most curious. They want to know about the tech. They're not necessarily tech experts themselves, but they sit with the tech team, understand it. They sit with the commercial team. They challenge the clients. They're the people in the meeting that will lean in or whatever. It goes back to your point, actually, in terms of that whole interview process. It's changing the way that works. So giving them a task, which might be, in the past, may have been create a campaign for me, and you go back and they'd have used AI tools and whatever, and they create the campaign. Now it might be that that's already been done, and you work out which the people that actually interpret that, put it apart and say, actually, there's the campaign, but have we talked to these people? Do we need to do this? And see how people respond to that type of brief. Or similarly, give them a result, a very technical response, and say, how do you explain this technical response? And see what skills they've got behind them to do that. And it might be that we have to look to other industries to find those people, because we may not have them necessarily in ours, but it's those types of skills that we're going to have to start thinking a lot more about, I think, going forward, to your point, because they are the people that sort of knit everything together.
Yeah.
And I think how we operate at Liberty Hive has really moved on as well, because, you talked about matching. 5 years ago, we matched based on skills, and that's what Liberty Hive was all about. That was our platform. But we have really moved on so far. Like, as you say, we're human-enabled, tech-enabled, human-led. And having that time to talk to people and understand what's behind the CV. And we're introducing new things all the time. So something that we're actually introducing this week, Lumina profiling, so psychometric testing, that's kind of like next generational. It doesn't just put people in stereotype sort of buckets. It understands the uniqueness about every individual. So it's great for candidates and self-awareness, but also really good for clients and team building. So, we're just looking at more and more initiatives, and that understanding that human conversation for us, even though we've got a huge amount of technology powering Liberty Hive, that is absolutely key for us moving forward.
I remember, I think I first met you guys probably 2 years ago now, and the thing that I remember was, yes, you've got a platform, and whenever I've referred people to you, it's like, yes, you'll have to fill in the platform, but they meet every single candidate to really understand who you are. So you're still doing that, but you also now layering on these other sort of psychometric elements.
Yeah, and other things that will be.
Yes.
And that the tech there is really helping us free up time to do even more of that. So that's been, brilliant.
It's been a game changer really for us.
Excellent. So agencies, you guys spent time in agencies, I spent 25 years in agencies, and they always talk about their people being their greatest asset. But obviously we're living in a world now where their greatest asset, there's more and more of them probably coming to you guys, sort of saying, it's probably not maybe the most buoyant market, you will know better than I. How do you make the case to agency leadership that really nurturing talent is a driver of their growth? Because you guys must see it all the time.
Yeah, we do. And I get it. This is like, we talked about this at the beginning of this podcast, is times are really tough. Like, we've got so many things happening all at once. Every time you think you're over one thing, another thing happens. But it's, sort of whether it's overseas, whether it's local, the merging of holding companies, there's so many things at play. And I get it. Times are tough, and it's just easy to go for cut now and rebuild later. I understand how that could be the best option in the short term. Yeah. And, at the moment, actually, agency turnover is really low. It's like 80.
Really?
Yeah, it's 18%. So before COVID, it was much more like 30%.
Yeah.
So, but this isn't because everybody's happy. So when you look at the latest YouGov statistics, actually over 50% are looking to move in the next 12 months. Young people, it's more like 80%. But actually, at the moment, people are thinking, for security, lack of options, so they're going to stay. But that isn't good in the long run, because the market will pick up again, and then you get this big movement, and everybody sort of starts to suddenly, whether it's a buyer's, seller's market, it changes and fluctuates. So retention is, and investing in people is, you could argue, more important now than ever before, when agency turnover, ironically, is quite low. But we see people who come to us and say, well, they might not be quite ready, but they do want to move because culture, whatever it is that's coming through. But yeah, it's something long term that agencies need to think about.
And actually, on that note, when we all came through, it was, you had mentors, you had that training, you were learning off people. We all sort of fell into media almost. I mean, it's, we were so fortunate, and not to have those roles and not invest is really tough going forward in terms of what that means for future managers. And one of the things that we feel really passionate about, and this is not quite hot off the press, but something we're working on for September, is actually saying, right, we're going to put some skin back in the game here. And we're looking at a non-profit part of Liberty Hive, which will do exactly that and support people that are passionate, want to get into our industry, with mentors, opportunities to meet employees, opportunities for training and skill building. We really feel that we need to give people that leg up, and we've got that community. We've already talked about mentoring schemes and have lots of people that want to help others. I mean, that's a great thing about our industry. So putting time and some of the benefits we've had back into that younger group coming in and working with employers to encourage them to take them on is something. Brilliant. But more details to follow, so we'll come back.
Count us in we'll absolutely be there.
Yeah, I think getting people behind it, and as you say, almost saying like everyone needs to take on someone. Just
take some responsibility and put skin back in the game, and that commitment.
So James, who works at 300, he's looking at doing 2-day training courses for sort of post-school leavers, not sure where they want to do. Just show them what it's like, give them live briefs, arm them a bit better to be ready for, absolutely ready for the market. You guys don't sit still, do you, really, when it comes to all the different...
That's her brain. That's her side.
Am I right in thinking you started a week before COVID? Was that right, pretty much?
We registered Liberty Hive on the 4th of March. And
excellent.
20 days later, we were in COVID.
Right,
so we've never had
an easy ride, have you?
Easy ride, no.
We keep imagining, what would it be like it was just,
if we didn't have...
everything was stable and...
Yeah, you'd probably be bored. I mean, it must have built some resilience into the business.
There's definitely lots of resilience.
It's definitely built resilience.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, lots of people aren't moving within businesses. You say about 18% attrition rate at the moment. Are you seeing agencies, as they want to grow, but don't want to invest in full-time talent, are you seeing there's a higher prevalence of them looking for contractors, bring outside agencies in, freelancers coming into their business?
Yeah, 100%. And this is, interestingly, when we launched 5 years ago, we launched a platform for people who wanted to do flexible working, fractional, part-time, whichever way they wanted to work. We moved quickly into permanent, but what it's meant is over the last 5 years, we've been able to track that peaks and troughs of what's more popular. And certainly in the last 18 months, the move towards fractionals and freelance has increased massively.
There was a global recruiter said something like 1 in 4 businesses are now claiming that they're going to look at hiring more freelancers and contractors. And I would say 80% of our roles are freelance at the moment, something like that. Yeah. But then it will change again with the economy. So it does.
There's an agency we work with, and their chief growth officer was asked on a podcast how they handle the up and down of pitches and the work, and that person's answer was, we cheat. We get in companies like 300 to fill in the gaps at the moments in time that we need them, then we don't need them, they'll go off somewhere else, and then we bring them back.
And it's not cheating, is it? It's being smart. It's working in a really smart way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's one thing we're seeing is that I think once upon a time agencies were all quite, worried about pitching and confidential elements. But now we're seeing freelancers being bought to work on specific pitches, really as little as 3 weeks, not a 6-month contract hire or
Yeah, and if an agency pays somebody £10, it actually costs that agency about £25 to have them. Yes. So they can actually pay them just £10 to get the same quality of work, because there's no overheads, there's no social costs, there's no national insurance. So it is quite a smart way of doing it.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. At 300, we talk about commercial resilience. So that's the agency's ability to keep and grow their current clients, to nurture their best talent, and to win more new business. But in a market that's fiercely competitive, what do you think the secrets are to retaining their best talent? You've kind of touched on it.
We have touched on it a little bit. You know, we've talked about the fact that people are thinking about leaving in the next 12 months, even though they don't necessarily have as many options currently. Now is the time to think about agency mojo. And we've debated this loads, but I think it's about making sure people are seen. So not just turning up and doing someone's review once a year, but actually understanding what makes your team tick, your individuals, how do you give them more autonomy, how you trust them, the work's interesting. How people are seen is just really, really key, especially in a world where AI is taking on more and more of those automated roles. How do you give people the space for that creative and critical thinking? So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting times.
We actually did a big survey about 18 months ago with Justin Gibbons on, he works for Work Research, and it asked that question, like, what is it that keeps someone in a job? What is it that they look for when they are looking for a new job? And we actually interviewed about 250 people, so it's quite a huge survey for the industry. And what was interesting then, and we do need to do it again, is the disconnect between what employers thought employees wanted and what employees wanted. So, for example, the biggest motivator employers identified was salary, and of course that will be a motivator, but actually employees, the biggest motivator was the package. So the flexibility, the salary, yes, but also, you know, days in the office space, all of that stuff has to be considered. And I think at the moment when the job market is quite, you know, tough for candidates, not just putting all the emphasis on the salary, but also that all that other stuff is even more important. So, and we see that a lot with candidates who are like, yeah, I'm happy to do that role, but I, you know, really want the flexibility on 2 days or 3 days. And companies that understand that and give people the autonomy and all of the rest of it without the restrictions, I think will win in the culture type space and keep people.
If I go back to Mojo, I guess, and agencies, the Mojo really is kind of their proposition, isn't it? And we talk to agencies a lot about having a distinctive proposition. It's not really much, there's no such thing as differentiation. There's lots of agencies do the same thing, but be distinctively known for one thing. And you drag that through the whole of your agency. You work with agencies all the time. When you walk in, do you kind of feel the Mojo? There's some of them, it's just live and breathing, and some of them, they kind of maybe feel a bit lost about who they are?
Yeah, I had the biggest shock, I think, when I went from agency side to work at the Telegraph. Yeah. And at the Telegraph, I was doing sort of more commercial sales. So I was dealing with agencies across the board all the time. And having come from an agency environment and worked in agencies for a long time, I just assumed we're all pretty much the same. Just different names. And then when I went from the other side and was going in and out of agencies the whole time, I couldn't believe how the difference, the feel, the vibe as soon as you go in. And yeah, it's always kind of shocked me because, as I was saying, especially going forward with AI levelling, going back to the first question, levelling everyone out and all having access to the same tools, that's going to be even more important, isn't it, in terms of differentiating agency culture, feel.
Could you give a word of advice to anyone who is potentially looking to come into the industry outside of AI? How do they make themselves stand out? If they are one of 500 applicants for one job, what can they do to make themselves stand out?
I think passion has got to be first and foremost because like Kate was talking about, people who can hold the room, make judgments, you know, form relationships. You'd be surprised at how many people don't necessarily want to pick up the phone or...
That's one thing I was going to say, pick up the phone and just follow up on a conversation, because as soon as someone phones, I'm like, so few people phone me nowadays.
I know.
It's all on email. I'm like,
what's wrong?
But
What's
the
happened?
Candidates that are phoning me are genuinely the really good ones, because they're like, well, what happened? You know, I had my interview. What's going on? And I'm like,
pick up the phone. Be passionate. Be personable. Read the room. Do your homework. And again, you know, we can create as many packs as possible to help our candidates, but actually, you remember it way better and be better informed if you do it yourself. Always.
Absolutely. So my last question, as at the inception of 300, somehow we ended up with a mascot which was a winged goat.
Love it.
I will
Brilliant.
tell you the story of it another time. So for anybody that comes on, we like to give you a winged goat T-shirt.
Thank you very much.
But it comes with a question.
Okay.
So given it is a goat, I will give you one each. There we go. Who for each of you has been your goat, your greatest of all time, that person or people, yeah, there we go, the person or people that have influenced your career and helped you grow the most?
Do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, I can. So my goat is actually Jerry Boyle. And as many people know, he's amazing. Been at Zenith and then Publicis Investment for the last 2 decades. He was one of the first people that came through on the strategy side that went on to lead. So he's a very good strategic thinker, went on to lead. He built Zenith up globally. He's done amazing roles. He's great with clients. I've worked alongside pitches with him, all of those brilliant things. That's not why he's my goat, but he is brilliant in those areas. The reason he's my goat actually goes back to 2005. I was interviewing at Zenith for a role on L'Oreal, and I was going through the interview process with Jerry, and he did something that really surprised me, and that was he didn't ask me my salary in the whole process. And I thought that's unusual because back in 2005, you started with a salary.
Yeah.
If you were lucky, you got an extra grand. You were grateful for the extra grand and you would take the role. And it's probably why there was a massive discrepancy in gender pay gaps. Anyway, he didn't ask me my salary. Instead, what he did is he told me about the value of the role to the agency. He talked about what value I could bring to that role. He talked about my experience in bringing that value, and we had a big discussion about it. And actually, it's something that's stayed with us to date because one of the biggest campaigns we've done at Liberty Hive has been around salary transparency 20 years on.
Yep.
And we did this big campaign, and it comes from that kind of value that he put on to someone and the confidence he gave someone from not asking that question. So for me, yes, he's a great business leader. He's driven massive growth, but actually he's also proved that looking after talent goes beyond just the mentoring, giving opportunities. It is also putting a value on them and making them understand that and feel confident in their value.
Excellent. And as you say, it's come through in the business that you now run. Yep.
I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah.
So mine is a little bit different, and it goes back to way back from when we first worked together on Biostore at Cara. So we're talking quite a while ago. And Neil Jones was running Cara at the time, and I had my first child at Cara. And I just remember feeling really overall, like completely flummoxed about how I was going to sort of go back to work full time and look after this little one as a new mum, and nobody worked flexibly. You're 5 days in the office,
yes, yeah.
and there was nobody part time. So I was going to hand my notice in, and then I just on the off chance I went in to see Neil and I said, if I try 1 month working 3 days a week in the team, can we have it as a trial? He went, yeah, all right. And so I worked actually supporting Kate in the planning role. So I'd do this sort of more projects in the background, and some client facing, some presenting, but we made it work really, really well. Actually I stayed at Cara for 13 years as a result. And I think I might have even given up work had it not been for Neil saying,
wow,
you can do it. And after 1 month, he said, it works. And that was it. It made me permanent 3 days a week. So I'm forever grateful for that. I didn't stay 3 days a week. I'd quite like to wait. Can I work 3 days a week now?
That would be great.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
us.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time on 300 Seconds on Agency Growth.